Hi, hello, welcome in. I'm Jerica, and I'm a writer, editor, and all-around content creator. We're going to discuss some things that I think you should be thinking about before hiring an editor to make the process go as quick and smooth as it possibly can. Some will touch on the topic of what type of editing you need, which we discussed previously in this series, so if you need a little extra guidance on that, I'll leave the link for you up there and down there. But you're here because you know you want to hire an editor. You know you need a little guidance on your writing, whether you're working on your first draft still trying to develop those ideas, or on your 10th and just looking for a quick technical polish. But you're a little unsure of what the process actually looks like, and you're curious about what you might actually want to be preparing before jumping into the fray. Here are 5 things to ask yourself before hiring an editor. These questions are designed to help you narrow your search and solidify your goals and expectations. Considering the answers to these questions will help not only in your search, but in communicating with prospective editors. That way you can make sure that everyone's on the same page. And don't worry, we will talk more about that initial conversation in a future installment. Question number 1. What are your goals with this round of editing? Understanding your goals will help you figure out what kind of editing and therefore what kind of editor you're looking for. And these goals can be pretty broad or super specific. You might be in the throes of your 3rd draft and realize that your dialogue doesn't feel quite right. Or maybe you've gotten your manuscript to the best place that you can on your own, but you know that fresh eyes can help polish it just that little bit extra. Maybe you're writing a persuasive essay and you're not quite sure what the ideal order for your arguments is. Perhaps you're writing a character that is quite different from yourself and you want to make sure that you're not falling into any poor taste tropes. Maybe you don't even want your full manuscript edited. Maybe there's just a scene or chapter that you're really struggling with. These are all aspects of editing that you may be seeking, but not all editors offer or are qualified to offer those services. This will help you figure out keywords for your search, as well as help you in communication with prospective editors, because not all types of editing are as cut and dry as we'd like. Whatever your goals, there is an editor out there that is ready and willing to help you make your pace the best that it can be. Question number 2. What type of editing do you need? But Jerica, didn't we just answer this question? Yes and no. While this is similar to the previous question, this is kind of taking those abstract goals and stuffing them into a technical box. Basically, what do those goals mean in the editorial world? As mentioned, I do discuss some of the most common types of editing in a previous So You Want to Hire an Editor, but let's take a look at the examples I used in question 1. Each of these first falls into big picture or line editing. Really, this is just asking, is the editor looking at the piece as a whole, or are they going sentence by sentence? And then there are a few more intricacies to help narrow it down further. Big picture early drafts are probably going to be a developmental edit, while big picture later drafts are likely going to be a substantive or structural edit. Line editing, which is just a technical focus, will be copy editing, while a line edit that's focused more on more subjective or stylistic choices will be a heavy copy edit or a stylistic edit. You'll notice that there is one option from question 1 that has yet to be categorized. And this is because some types of editing are a bit more specialized and don't exactly fall into these groups. This example will require what's called a sensitivity reader. And sensitivity reading kind of falls into both big picture and line editing, but it's focusing on a very specific aspect of your story, usually a character, but it can be just like a theme in your story. And you might realize that the dialogue example is also super specific, but because this kind of falls into a piece of another type of editing rather than something sitting outside those 4 common types I've spoken about, it can just be thrown in. You're just going to ask for a very specific type of editing within that category. Rather than it being like a specialized expertise, it's more of just narrowing the lens. So why do I think you should ask both of these questions of yourself? Well, not everyone defines every type of editing the same way. So even if you think you need a substantive editor, that doesn't mean that every substantive editor agrees with you, nor does it mean that every editor that can help you is a substantive editor. It's a little confusing, but that's why being able to articulate your goals in a conversation with an editor while also using technical terms in a search is really helpful. Question number 3. What are your project details? There are a variety of project details that will determine what kind of editor you're looking for. The first two that I want you to consider are genre and the length of your manuscript. Editors often have specialties and restrictions on content and length of pieces that they'll work on. For example, some editors will only do substantive editing on short fiction. Some will only copy edit on academic papers. They may have preferred genres or genres they won't touch. And this goes for topics in nonfiction as well. Or it might be less preference and just they have a specialty because they have a lot of knowledge or experience working in a certain style or genre of writing, or rather editing. If you bring a personal essay to somebody who only works on novel-length horror, you're not really gonna get the best treatment. In fact, you probably just won't end up working with that editor. They will turn down your inquiry because it's just not what they do. Just like you're a certain kind of writer, editors are particular in their skill sets too. I'd suggest finding the perfect editor is very similar to finding the perfect agent or publisher. And I'm sure you've seen people on social media talking about how difficult that can be. I do think finding the right editor might be a little bit easier though. Question number 4, or kind of 3B. What is your budget? This is a bit of a big one, and while it's technically a project detail, I think it deserves its own section. Everyone needs to work within their means, so knowing your budget going in will help you find an editor that can accommodate you. Consider your project length and the detail of edit when you're considering your budget. Prices are often calculated on a by word basis, though not every editor does this. And that per word cost is usually based on some sort of estimated hourly wage. That means that the more detailed of an edit you're getting, the higher that per word cost will be. And also, any longer piece using the same type of editing will still be more expensive than a shorter piece. Editors may also use an hourly structure, where they'll provide you with work logs and you will just pay them for the time worked. And others may use some sort of by project structure. It is a bit of a coin toss whether you'll find the prices on an editor's website. So this may have to wait until you're actually having a conversation with the editor. But if they are there, that little bit of math may save you some trouble if they happen to be way outside your budget. However, some editors will be open to negotiating prices, usually for different or less work at a discounted price, but broach this with polite caution. I personally have on my website that I am open to negotiation, but still only to such an extent. We're all trying to make it in this capitalistic world. So if someone says they can't accommodate your budget, just politely leave it at that. Consider asking if they have tips on self-editing so that you can get your manuscript to a point where it will cost less to have it edited. You could also consider asking for a referral. Most editors have editor buddies, and a lot know newer editors that are looking for clients who tend to be charging less because they have less experience. And just a note further about the less or different work when negotiating prices. Examples could be if they usually offer a style sheet, an editorial note, and or a video call as part of their services, they may offer only the markup. Or they may offer to charge hourly and just work the amount of hours that fit into your budget, so not your whole manuscript will get edited, but hopefully you can learn something from the markup that they do to apply it to the rest. It will be up to you if these are acceptable terms, and if you have this conversation and you decide that it's not for you, there will be no hard feelings. Question number 5, or kind of 3C. Do you have a deadline? Are you writing an article, paper, or short story for a publication with a deadline? Or maybe it's a bit more of a self-imposed deadline. Or maybe you just know that you're impatient. It's good to know that many editors are booked out months in advance. So if you know you need this by a certain date, being upfront about it in your initial inquiry will help save a lot of time, because the editor will know if they can squeeze you into their schedule or not. This question is more in preparation for actually speaking to an editor later. You're not likely to find when an editor is booked out to on their website, though it's not out of the question that it might be there. But either way, knowing the answer to this will definitely help you not be overwhelmed by all of the questions that an editor may ask you before taking you on. And I said it already, and you'll hear me say it at least one more time. If the editor you had your heart set on cannot squeeze you into their schedule, ask them for a referral. It makes the next search, the next inquiry, maybe the next couple, way easier for you, and you're still supporting this editor by supporting their friends. It's really wins all the way around. Now that you have a firm idea of what you're looking for, where the heck do you look for an editor? Well, it depends a little bit on the answers to these questions, but you know I wouldn't leave you hanging. The next installment of this series will be looking at a bunch of different places that you can go looking for an editor and their unique uses, pros and cons. To be notified when that video drops, make sure that you subscribe, hit the bell, or if you like blog posts, you can go check it out on my website because the blogs always drop first. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you had fun and learned something. I had a blast. Catch you next time. Bye. Draft and still try. Cool. Love it. Ah! Menini. That's the second time I've done that on that one.